I see a lot of people in debates trying to counter somebody else's stance on something by saying, oh, there's no scientific study or evidence to back that up. Especially when it comes to things like raw meat consumption, a diet consisting of raw animal products, and the nutrition profiles around that. For something like that, it definitely won't be allowed because of the mainstream medical industry, like against germs and everything entirely. So it's like, I guess that's their argument for not doing studies on it, but it could be many other reasons, of course. But getting back to the point, that kind of thing, since there is going to be no studies on it, one, you, as the person countering that argument that raw animal based is most optimal, that person countering, they cannot say that claim is false. But ironically, they cannot say that it's also true. For the person, with the stance. It's kind of twisted logic, but it makes sense because there is no studies. So you can't even back that up with a study. And then the person countering cannot say it's false because there is no study on it. So if they're based in scientific evidence from research. So at that point, you have to trust your anecdotal evidence instead of any, public medical study. I think it's called PubMed or something. That's the abbreviation. But yeah, those databases is not going to have the data. So you have to turn to anecdotal evidence. If you see something is working for somebody, and they're also, giving you this anecdotal evidence, you either have to trust that or you have to do it yourself. But you can't discredit somebody just because there's no study for it, because they have the evidence within themselves and they're living evidence. And if you don't trust them, that's fine. Do it yourself. Or find another way to test it, because you just can't keep saying, oh, it's not true, if you're going to base yourself in scientific evidence when there is none. So do it yourself then, if you need science to prove it or not. That's kind of how my thought has been forming, on this anecdotal stuff for a while. Like at first I thought it was crazy too, like basing everything off of anecdotal, but at the same time, the things that end up being holistic in more of a natural approach to things, there's not a lot of studies on them still. So we have to either rediscover what our ancestors did by trying things, or we have to test by other means. Because it sure as heck seems that like the government or whoever is doing these massive studies is not going to touch any of this stuff, because it shatters their profit system and all that stuff, potentially. So, I wanted to kind of put this out here because I don't know how you guys feel like about anecdotal evidence. I know some of the people in the health sphere, even though they're holistic, they still base their ideas in scientific research, like mainstream research, which is interesting because I think it's a whole nother rabbit hole, but a lot of it is either funded or influenced by something, so it's not a true study, and it's the intentions don't seem right. I'll leave it at that, but I can talk about that more later if anyone wants to. But yeah, just on that topic, I think anecdotal still has power, so I wouldn't discredit that, especially if you're coming from an area of science where there is no study available or something like that. And also mentioning that some of the research is potentially influenced